Thank you, Cameron, for learning that. I have always been attracted to vibrant communities of faith. They are places that have challenged me to leadership. They have opened up my heart to others. They've offered solace when the world seemed unbearable. Anybody feel like they live in an unbearable world? Vibrant communities of faith hold the kinds of things that I think we hear in that reading from Anne Lamont, the kinds of things that we wish for all of ourselves, all of our children, all of our elders. I have always been attracted, but they've not always been UU communities. I am a seeker. I love wrestling with big ideas. I love and have looked for so long for geodes all over. I believe that our liberal faith has answers that are desperately needed in this time by ourselves and by others. So I want to tell you a little bit of a story. So I grew up in a UU home, and when I was in my 20s, came out a little late, I came out as a lesbian to my parents, and my mother simply looked at me and said, "Oh, that's very nice, dear. Do you want chicken or beef for dinner?" And I was like, "Come on, I'm supposed to get this big something." In contrast, however, when I told them that I was leaving an internship at a Unitarian Universalist church to go and study with the Episcopalians, they felt it necessary to send me a letter telling me that it was okay that I would be still welcomed in their house. After that, I know, right? You're like, who writes these things? After that letter, the next time that I visited them, as I sat down for our post-dinner chat in the dining room with wine, my father asked, "So, how, Karen, as a Christian, do you reconcile sin and colonialization and all of the destructive powers meted out by homophobia, xenophobia, patriarchy, slavery?" Okay, I wasn't at that for that long. We talked for hours that night and for many, many times over the next 3 years. We spoke about fundamentalism and beliefs and faith and how the wrestling with our choices impacts us and our world so profoundly. How sometimes our beliefs are beautiful and sometimes they are harmful and destructive. In those conversations and many beyond, I found myself grappling with the foundations of my life. I'd been brought to this place of seeking because of grief. My partner had died. I was standing by the end of her bed. I heard an urgent, quiet voice say, "Karen, it's time." I turned to see her looking at something so affirmatively that I followed her eyes there. I held her hand, I knelt beside her bed, and she breathed her last, and only at that moment did her eyes stop seeing. I don't know what she saw. Maybe it was just neurons flashing, but I believe that she was looking at something, and maybe that's all that matters. In grief, I began wrestling with words that would help me hold on to that moment, right? We need to hold on to the moments of our lives because if we let them slip by without language, then they get lost in an ether that just is something like this back there. But as I struggled, I could not seem to find a place to rest where that experience would be accepted. The language of humanism in my UU communities didn't hold any of the mystery that I needed to be able to describe that moment. So I found a place of ritual and spiritual practice with the Episcopalian Church that offered comfort and solidity, Oh my gosh, I love the Episcopalians. I am a ritual, I am a witch at heart. And so the ritual that was there and deeply seated into these people was amazing to me. But what I realized over time was that there were many there that embraced a specific dogma along with my beloved ritual, and it was a dogma that I could not fully accept. In leaving the UU Church, I learned an important lesson about my faith. It begins with seeking. My faith begins with the search. It begins with doubt. It begins in those moments when, brought by grief or just by life, that I am risked being cracked open by the conversations and actions from the rough stones of my search into the geodes of my truth. I am and always have been a religious seeker, someone who wrestles with faith but never completely accepts any one truth. I am what I think of as a modern-day Unitarian Universalist. What makes a Unitarian Universalist, besides being able to say Unitarian Universalist fast, really quick times, besides pledging or membership, I believe it is that agreement to wrestle with beliefs, to engage a world through curiosity, through conversation and doubt. Doubt not as a road leading to some ultimate truth, but as a roadmap for the constant journey we are on, seeking to be able to articulate fully in this moment what it is that we believe. From the Buddhist tradition, it is the truth that points towards a deeper reality, much like many hands point toward the moon. Truth which asks us to act in love. I thought that this was the way that all people understood their beliefs. I was brought up Unitarian Universalist. I was wrong. I finally recognized that my faith is a journey, and while some may be on that journey with me, many of my Episcopal friends believed that religion contained an ultimate truth rather than an ultimate searching. This is the heritage of being a member of a liberal religious community. As Dan Hotchkiss said, religion at its best is not a friend of the status quo. Religion transforms people. No one touches holy ground and stays the same. Liberal religion reminds us to respond to our world today through the lens of our own beliefs in this particular moment. In being part of a progressive liberal religious community, we affirm that wrestling through the free exchange of ideas and belief, the free exchange of ideas and belief, opens up the discourse that allows us to change as we learn. We live into what we might become because we have the freedom to question and critique what is now. Having other people around that are different than us keeps us honest. It gives us a perspective. It helps us see things that maybe we missed when we were wandering. Liberalism seeks and thrives in diversity because diversity of experience and beliefs and values sustains that ongoing critique that is needed for growth. Oi, DEI now. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. When I look to the great teachers and sages of religious traditions, I see that affirmation that our growth sometimes comes through engagement with difference in the world. Siddhartha, right, became Buddha only after he let go of his beautiful, well-controlled palace and began journeying into the real world that had been kept from him. The Sumerian goddess Inanna or the Hindu goddess Kali are these beautiful goddesses that embody both life and death at the same moment, creation and destruction, all meted into one beautiful goddess that is revered and worshipped. Jesus, for God's sakes, wandered far afield from Israel's, across the Sea of Galilee. This guy talked to the Samaritans, to the Syrophoenicians. He even healed the Romans, right? He was gathering perspectives all the way along, the experiences that helped him to become, in my mind, the God that he was, or the person that was venerated enough that 2,000-ish years later, people are still saying, what did he say? How did he act? Here in a liberal religious community, you are asked to wrestle with differences, with what is known and how you act in the world. A liberal community is fundamentally different than many of the other places that you might find yourself, right? A liberal church is different than a civic organization. And here's what I would say is the difference. In a liberal church, you are ultimately asked, if you're changing, if you're discussing, if you're taking a look at something, so what? Right? If I go to a play or a movie or go out and engage with friends of mine in any kind of activity, I might talk to them about what it is that was reflected in something that I just saw in a play. I might tell them how deeply moved I was about something. But it is here in church that you are asked not just what happened, but what does that mean tomorrow to you? What do you believe in so that you know how it is that you will act in the world that is out there? I remember seeing this Marvel movie called Infinity Wars not too long ago. It's this, if you're into Marvel comics at all, it's this like culmination of sadness and sorrow and destruction and all this stuff. And in the movie, essentially, this character by the name of Thanos gathers something called Infinity Stones. When he gets all 6 of them, he gathers them through a lot of death and destruction and not being so nice. He gains omnipotence. And in the moment that he gains omnipotence, he destroys half of the universe, half of the living beings that are in the universe. He lets go. It is heart-wrenching to watch those characters that you have fallen in love with, who showed you strength and courage 10 times when you need it, drift away. We learn that Thanos came to this desire because he came from a world that was destroyed by overpopulation. He sees this act as a necessary evil to save the universe. Saving things. Talking about this with a member of my church, we had this heart-wrenching conversation about choice. What do you do? Was that, well, that was so hideous. When have we felt compelled to act in something that would look so entirely evil? When have I felt compelled to act in something that might look evil in order to be able to move forward in some other way? Ooh, was Thanos a villain? Was he the hero? Was there a place where he could have had a communal conversation with other people? If that decision had come forward from a communal conversation, would that have made a difference to me? I have to say that as horrifying as it was, that last bit of understanding where that desire came from and how it was vetted made a difference to me. How we come to our answers makes a difference. I take that with me into every conversation I have about situational ethics. Every conversation that I have about whether or not this is a good or a not good thing to do, every conversation I have about why it is that a democratic voice is so desperately important. That conversation with a church member made a difference. Unitarian Universalism is the gift of living with a faith that asks how rather than who. How does your belief call you into the world? How does your belief help you to understand what justice is? How does your belief inform your relationships? This is not the way many people approach their faith. Many people look for definable answers that will be unmutable and will be the same in every situation that they can bring it to. Unitarian Universalism asks how your beliefs call you to act now. At times I've heard you use act as if beliefs themselves are the enemies. Like, we don't want to talk, oh, she's saying Jesus in the pulpit. What is it? And it's not even Easter. Yikes, right? That the beliefs are the problem. Beliefs are not the enemy. It's an unexamined, unchangeable, fundamentalist belief that is harmful. Fundamentalism is that mode of believing and being that does not and never will allow for doubt or change. Fundamentalist beliefs come in all stripes and patterns, but it is the lack of moral reflection and evolution of beliefs that makes them harmful. I want to say that again. It is the lack of moral reflection and the evolution of beliefs that makes them harmful. If our beliefs don't change with us as we move through life, if we're still holding on to something in the same way that we did before, in today's world, stop and ask yourself why. In his book, The Demonic Turn, Lloyd Steffens says, absolutism is the central reason and main course for a religion becoming dangerous and demonic. We Jews are not immune to this sort of fundamentalism. We must continue to garner the courage to speak about our beliefs and the places that we had to have differences within this community. I love that in our history, Francis David was able to say we need not think alike to love alike. Right? Where is that answer that is the pointing to the moon, where we can find that which is central and still speaks to all of us? Every day, I try to live well, and I oftentimes fail, right? Sometimes I succeed, and sometimes I do something that I have no idea it's this difference, right? What was I? No, this is here. How does this work? Right? I need a religious community to be held accountable to this struggle. This is not what I want to present to the world. What I want to present is this. Sure, there's still edges, but it's the center that matters. This is the gift my parents and others gave me in challenging my choices. After my partner's death and through the ensuing conversations, I know what I believe, and I also know that these beliefs will be transformed as I wrestle to live in this world. This is my faith. I believe in that which exists in all things, that which connects all things, and that which holds all things together. I call that God. It's way easier to talk in ministerial circles if you have a word for that. I believe in the power of responsibility, of personal and communal transformation towards love, the holy that we see and understand in different ways every day. I call that power spirit. I believe that we are each responsible for how we act and how and what we contribute. I call that ministry, and it is ministry for all of us. Is that enough? I think about this all the time. Will these beliefs hold me when I grieve? Will they challenge me when I need to act and fear is gripping my feet, right? Will they call me forward to serve something larger than myself? If I saw what happened on the street, how would I show up? I don't know what image you have in your mind, but these days, something is happening on our streets. As our lives and communities come under siege, we will be living in a world we have not faced before. There's no previous planning, no roadmap that help us figure out our way through. But we need not walk alone like lonely statues in a graveyard full of lies. We can and must wrestle with our beliefs and values together to know how we will choose to make it through. I know this, that the central task of any liberal religious community is to offer a space for us to gather and to wrestle and to affirm and to be changed, to remind us of what we believe and to understand how that calls us to act in this world. When and how we are called into this work of our world, giving from our resources. Yes, we've got things. Awesome. What's in need? Who needs a coat? Who needs food? I know that this community does that. What is needed now? And has that changed? Going to that protest. And where are you going to go? You're going to go down to Chicago? You're going to go to Woodstock? You're going to McHenry? How are you showing up? What does it mean to want to not want to have courage? Communicating with friends and family, all of your concerns. I have a very conservative fundamentalist brother, and still we try to hear and listen to each other. When are you granting that smile to the outcast? When are you standing witness if there is no opposition that is possible? Are you picking up the knapsack or the backpack of that girl who was picked up and at least trying to find where she was going and who it is that was waiting? Welcome, my friends, to this place of liberal religion. I hope that you come back next week and in all the weeks to come. I hope you support this place, that you find within it safety and awakening. I hope you know why you're here and not down the street. I hope that you are uplifted and that you know that here you will ensure that these doors and that this pulpit remains open. I hope that you know that here we are looking for you. And we know that if we can find each other, we might just be able to find ourselves out in the world.